Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Home Built Workshop. Welcome to Wednesday Live. How are we doing today? Hope everybody's doing great. We get things situated here so I can see the comments. You guys are beat me to the stream this morning. Sam's here. Sam says hello. Good morning, Sam. Good afternoon to you. I lost the chat. Where'd it go? What's going on here? Robert's here. Robert says hello, people. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and healthy. Robert, good morning. We are doing great. Hope you're doing just the same. Hey, dude, what's up? What's up, dude? Hey, dude says hello, everyone. Hey, dude, how's it going? Robert says there he is. Yeah, we're here. We're here. We're live. It's Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing good. What's everybody up to this fine Wednesday morning? Or Sam in the afternoon? Or Harry dude? Well, it's still morning. It's just super early. And Tony's here. Tony says, morning sunshine. Good morning, Tony. How are you doing this fine Wednesday morning? Robert says, just got my first cup of coffee. Well, Robert, I am glad to hear that. I had my 2 regular mugs, and this would be my 3rd. And it's super good. It's getting a little warm out right now. A little warm for coffee, but hey, can't pass that up. Let's see. Paul's here. Paul says, weekly pledge. Pledge allegiance to the cup that holds my caffeinated beverage. And to the drink, which contains 1 container full of coffee, indispensable with energy and caffeine for me. I like it. That should be like on a sign or something. I like that. Maybe we need to make a coffee pledge. Oh, that's funny. I like it. The coffee pledge. Yes, hang it right above the coffee machine or out here in the shop or something like that. Super good. I'm going to have that whole thing gone by the time we're done. Alrighty, so what's everybody up to? How's everybody been since last week? Hopefully everything's good. What kind of projects are you working on? What's everybody been up to? Robert says to Paul, put on a t-shirt. Yeah, that would be cool too. I have to mess with that. That'd be kind of fun. Make a little wooden sign or something. I don't know where we'd put it. I'm running out of sign space out here, but that's all right. That is all right. I like that. I got to remember that. How do you... I guess you can't like a comment specifically? Interesting. Huh. Who knew? How's everybody been? Let's see. What's going on? What has been going on around here? Well, you saw last week, or the video over the weekend. A little simple frame for the for the play button thingy. So yeah, as requested by you all. So there you have it. Oh, let's see. Robert says, face it, you're just running out of space, period. Robert, you're not wrong whatsoever. Not one little bit. Yeah, we are pretty much out of space for just about everything. Something that is on my mind, if I can get my hand to go in the right direction, is right up here with the hand planes. With some of the recent additions, I don't know where to put them. I don't. So that's something on my mind a little bit. I'm gonna build some sort of, probably in the same spot, some sort of a new hand plane rack, stand, holder, cabinet. Well, I don't know what to call it. Some place to store the hand planes up there. So I need to do a little bit of research just to kind of get some ideas of some different things. For the longest time, this little tiered thing worked fine because that's pretty much all I had. But now that I've gotten some more in, some of these older ones, and I've got some other ones that don't fit up there, and I just finished up another one, which I'll show you. Well, you can see it's right here. Where? Right there. just finished that up. I'll show you that in a minute. Another old one that my friend Jim sent me. So I'm really looking at, well, where are they going to go? Sam says you could reproduce a neon YouTube play button. I've thought about something like that. Maybe not the play button and not actual neon, but the same sort of idea. Signs, light up sort of signs like that. I've been looking at some different things that I think would be kind of fun to play around with. We'll see. I don't know. I got some ideas. Rick's here. Rick says, hey, Jeff. Rick, what's going on? How are you doing? Hope you're doing good, Rick. Paul says, working on a Gretsch. Pain in the butt. I saw that, Paul. You still got that thing, wiring issues or something, huh? Which really is a drag. Wiring issues can be a super huge pain. Sam said buffered for a little. I got an error message saying that there wasn't enough data going to YouTube just before I went live. But then it cleared up and it said the stream was the stream quality was excellent. I almost made an adjustment, but I don't know. I didn't. So hopefully it's good. I have been having, since you mentioned that, Sam, I have been having internet issues. Not at the home, not with like my Wi-Fi or anything like that. All of that has been working fine. My internet connection has been going in and out. Over the weekend, I think it happened actually like 400 times where you'd be going along and it would drop the connection and then it would reconnect to the tower. I had the tech from our internet, from my ISP, my service provider. They were out here Monday morning doing some work, and he's the one who told me that he was monitoring it before Monday over the weekend, and it had dropped the connection over 400 times. I forget what they call it. It sessioned. That's what they call it. Like it sessioned. Like it started a new session to where like it loses the connection, it restarts it, and he said he'd done it over 400 times. So he replaced the radio receiver. He connected it to something. He did some behind the scenes stuff and said it should be better. So far, I haven't seen it dropping out, but the speed doesn't seem to be there. Not that we had great speed anyway, but every single gig of speed I'll take. And it seems like we're down a little bit. So I don't know if it's related to that, but there's definitely something going on. I don't know. I just keep my fingers crossed that they're going to get this fiber connected out here, which I haven't seen any activity. They still have the ends of the conduit sticking up out of the ground. I don't know what's going on, nor have we heard a single thing. But I can say, Sam, since you mentioned the buffering, there has been there's been issues here, that's for sure. Let's see. Paul says, like how you age the frame. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, just, it's not really nothing fancy. Just some gray. It's literally gray dye. And it worked great. Big Swedes here says, hi, Bruce here from up the road. Are you actually from up the road? From up my road? Because that would be pretty cool. Or is that just a saying? From up the road. I don't know. I never want to assume. Senpakin, Rick is here. Rick says, good morning, Jeff and everyone. Hope your day is a great one. Right on. Rick, how you doing? Hope everything's going well for you. We're having a good summer. Robert says, may need to start working on an addition to the shop to get more space. Yeah, there's... yeah. Let's see. Sam says, YouTube's getting aggressive with the adverts. Too many, now being completely unskippable. I noticed that a couple days ago. There was totally no option to skip something. Paul says, yes, he doesn't want me to rewire it or pull the wiring all the way out to check continuity. This is why I don't build hollow bodies anymore. Well, the way I see it, Paul, is if the repair warrants it, like you can't, I wouldn't, It's almost unrealistic that somebody would expect you to do all of the work without pulling wiring out to check stuff. I don't know. At least to me, it sounds unrealistic. I don't know. I mean, I sort of get it, right? He doesn't want everything replaced, but if you got to pull something out to check something, I don't know. Sam Packett says, I'm suffering from bruised ribs, but I'm getting better. Started a thin line build, bought some vinyl templates to make some templates. Well, Rick, man, I'm sorry you have to deal with a bruised rib. I have had rib injury before, and it is not fun. So yeah, I hope you get over that and speedy recoveries. That is not fun. I cracked one time. Thankfully it wasn't broken, but it had a crack. Whew, man, does that hurt. Harry Dude says, don't use the YouTube app on the device. Use a browser with an ad blocker. Works so much better. There you go, Sam. A little tip from Harry Dude. Paul says they're waiting for the McMansions to start popping up, so it's worth it for them to run the fiber. Honestly, Paul, I feel like, yeah, I think, I don't think you are off at all. You're spot on. Unfortunately, straight across the road from us is hundreds of acres of pasture land and, ranch land that I believe is slated for development, which it was on my mind this morning. I don't know why. These weird things just pop into my brain, and it makes me so angry that everybody just wants to sell all of the ranch lands that they own anymore just because they can get a lot of money for it. I get that, but does nobody embrace the ranching, the history and all that? It just makes me mad that they're just so quick to sell everything. But you're right. All that's supposed to be developed, and once that happens, then sure, yeah, they're gonna jump at it to get the fire out here. Big Swede, Littleton. Oh yeah, you're right up the road. I mean, figuratively up the road. Yeah. I feel like you told me that before, and I've forgotten. So if that's the case, then my apologies. It's hard to keep all of it straight where everybody is. I try. Robert says, your router may be having issues. The router I bought apparently finally just stopped working after maybe 6 years. My routers are new. They're only about a year old, or is it 2 years old? I don't remember. I think it was last year. It doesn't mean it can't be failing, but it shows that the uptime on the router doesn't show any interruptions. It's all from the system that the internet service provider was tracking. It's their deal has been resetting their connection. Sam says perhaps a mini MiFi hotspot with a SIM card. Best Buy have some 24. Oh, two. What? Two with 4G. Yeah, I use my phone as a hotspot sometimes, and that sort of works, but I'm kind of upset with my phone too. I'm supposed to be on 5G, right? And which is supposed to be super fast and, all of this. For some reason, when I do a speed test, the 5G reads as being fast. But it can't even upload a 1-minute YouTube short it takes hours, and I don't understand why. So I've been saying this for weeks. I need to get into Verizon to talk to them and figure out what in the world, why it's so slow when they're telling me, oh, you're on the 5G, high speed plan and all that stuff. I was very specific with wanting to go with the 5G plan. Like, it costs more, or whatever plan we're on. Maybe it's not 5G specifically, but whatever plan we're on, because I wanted the extra speed so that I could use it as a hotspot in the event of some sort of outage. But it's so slow. Totally not worth it, in my opinion. So it might be changing if they can't resolve whatever's going on. It's just weird. It's like, I pay for this plan. I want this speed. But yeah, maybe so, Sam. Maybe that's another option. Get an actual Wi-Fi hotspot. I hate to pay for another device when I'm paying for, I'm paying for internet at the home and I'm paying for cell phone service. So to me, that's two. I don't know. Let's see. Paul says, I want to tell him fine. I'll pry the back off so the wiring remains intact. That's one way to do it. You didn't disturb the wiring, that's for sure. I can guarantee it. Paul says, I injured some ribs at Chili's the other day. Or rather, they injured me. Oh, man. Ribs. Da-dun. Love ribs. They're so good. Let's see. Harry Dude says, tell him you'll route the access in the back and cover it with scrap of pickguard material. It's one way around it. Another way. I mean, see, there's lots of ways to do it. He doesn't want you to mess with the wiring. I'd be pulling that wiring out if I have to. Like, look, customer, sorry, I can't get in there to do it. Paul says they will regret it when all of the farmland is developed and we have to eat lab-grown foods or Soylent Green replaces the foods. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm not originally from this area. I didn't grow up, sort of the Western kind of lifestyle, which is very prominent out here. But I feel like, it sort of becomes, you sort of adopt it. There you go. And I appreciate all of the history, the heritage around here, and everybody is so quick to sell off their land because it's going for a high price. And I think that's absolutely, yeah, they're going to regret it. I mean, I regret it, but it's not my land to sell. I get it. They want to make some good money. Don't get me started. Let's move on. Let's see. Francisco's here. Francisco says, hi, Jeff and everyone. How are you? I'm looking at baseball game results and was wondering if you like the game. If so, what's your favorite team? Francisco, it's been a long time since I've followed any sort of baseball. I think, honestly, I was probably, man, the last time I really watched a game was probably, maybe my junior or senior year of high school. I haven't watched any baseball since. That was like a million years ago, right around the time Tyrannosaurus roamed the earth, I think. No, just kidding. But anyway, I used to follow baseball, and I don't follow it too much anymore. It's not because I don't like it or anything. It's just not something that I really follow. So I guess I don't really have a favorite team. What's yours? What's your team? What are you following? Who are you following, I guess? Robert says, once all the ranch land and farmland's taken up and built on, it's not going to be fun getting food or meat to eat. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, they're so quick to just wipe out the, history. Some of these ranches were homesteaded way back when, and these giant ranches, they're not making big ranches anymore. And they're not buying up shopping centers, tearing them down to build a ranch. It's always going the opposite way, right? People aren't buying up the land because they want to build a big cattle ranch. It's just not happening, unfortunately. I wish they were. I wish they would buy up this stuff, tear down all this places. But it doesn't work that way. It's always the reverse, always. And that's just wrong. I stand beside that, behind that, whatever it is. Yeah, it just sucks. It makes me upset, even though I have zero control over it, and there's nothing I can do, except remain in support of the farms and ranches. It's like when I go back home, in Pennsylvania, but it's not just there; it's all over the place. All the dairy farms. There used to be so many dairy farms. Around the time I moved out here. Some 20, 25 years ago, dairy farms were big. Like all the family dairy farms were, for the most part, all of them were doing well. Things appeared to be booming. It wasn't long after that all the dairy farms, or a lot of the dairy farms, started going out of business, including the one that I worked on for years. Now he's not completely out of business. He just got out of the cows, he still does crops, which is good. But the dairies are all going under too. It's the same thing. It's so hard for them to make a living, and I imagine these ranches are the same, and that's why people are just like, oh, I can make some good money by selling? Sure. It's the worst. Harry Dude says, I finally got reliable internet into my new workshop from the house with power line adapters. Ethernet over house power lines works well. Not sure if available in the U.S. They are, Harry Dude. I'm familiar with those. I've not tried them, but yeah, I've seen them. I hear they work really well. That's awesome. I'm glad you got that in there. Got it working. Sam says, I'm watching this live stream on my Samsung Galaxy Tab, and the buttons are very close to each other. Such 1, 2, 3, 4, and the numbers might get knocked and inputted instead. Sam, I have that same problem. If I'm typing something, a lot of times all the buttons on the bottom row, I end up hitting the space bar, and it screws up my whole typing thing. So I know what you mean. Paul says, I have 80 acres just north of here that I bought when I was 19. Wanted to be a farmer. At least 60 of it for farming, and the other 20 are woods. Not selling at all. Surrounded by big houses. Nice, Paul. That's awesome. Yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. Keep it. I know you could probably sell it and make a ton of money. And, there's circumstances where I can totally see, right? Some sort of thing comes up and you need, whatever. I get it. But to sell it just to sell it, yes, I'm with you, Paul. And then those kinds of things, like if you want to sell that sort of stuff, yeah, don't sell it for commercial. Problem is, you can't control what the next person's going to do, right? They can do whatever it is because it's theirs. I don't know. I don't want to get off into the weeds on all this, but now it's on my mind. Let's see. Sam says, I'm getting targeted advertising as soon as you reply to my comments. That's how aggressive the advertising is. Sam, I don't understand that. That's crazy. Time Surfing says, oh, I made it. Woohoo! Right on. It says sell hunting rights. Yeah, you could do that too. Anyway, I've been rambling about this. What have we been working on? Check this thing out. This is this little block plane that my friend Jim sent me. That was actually in the box that I opened up last week. Only it was covered in rust and crusty and dusty and filthy and grimy. Yesterday, it got a makeover, I guess we could call it. And I spent a ton of time really just cleaning it up, trying to find markings and all of that on there. And I believe that this is a Stanley number 9.5. Well, I know for in fact it's a Stanley because it says right on the back. Probably can't get that to focus. There, you can sort of maybe see it. There you go. It is a Stanley number 9.5, circa 1890. Roughly. There's several clues on here which I broke down in the video. I'm doing a video on this, just cleaning it up, bringing it back to life. There's several clues that kind of lead to it being made around that time frame. Do any of you, before I dive into it, do any of you have a 9.5 block plane? First off. This thing is pretty cool. I've got several other block planes, but I think this might be my new favorite. I don't know. This one I really like. This is a number 65. This is a low angle block plane. But this one's a lot heavier and it works really well, but there's something cool about this one. Especially if my estimation is correct, and it really is, from that 1890 time period. Like, how cool is that? Paul says, yes, I have a full set of Stanley in my shop. So you have a 9.5 block plane. I would love to know there's a couple of things that give this away as being from that time frame. So yours, Paul, if you got a 9.5, is it adjustable mouth? So the adjustable mouth, it's my understanding that I have a bunch of notes here. There's a cam lever on this front, right, that helps you adjust the mouth. Very similar to the lever. Very similar to the lever that's on this 65. You see that lever right there? From what I found online, that cam lever was added in the mid 1890s, so like 1895-ish. Yeah, oh, it says late 1890s is what I wrote down. This does not have that lever, nor does it appear to have a pivot hole or anything, which tells me that this had a lever and maybe just got lost. So I see no provisions for that lever. So that tells me that it's before the mid 1890s or the late 1890s. The fact that it has this lateral adjustment on there tells me like they added this style in the early 1880s. So that narrows it down to, 1880 to 1895-ish. Also, these little indents on the side, apparently those are called the handy grips. I also read that they added them to the number 9.5s in 1895. 1895 and on, roughly. In the late, let's see, where did it go? So I know this is, 1880 to 1895, roughly. There's some patent dates on here, and the latest patent date that's it's stamped into this lateral adjusting lever is 88. Now, initially, I thought that honestly was 1988, and that this wasn't that old. But they didn't make these in 1988. They stopped in like 1980 or 81, I think. So I've done a ton of research, and I really believe that it's roughly from that era, 1890, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, but yeah, just went through, got everything cleaned up, lightly flattened the bottom, and it works great. So another cool old tool to add to the collection and put up on the shelf. Paul says, is the mouth adjustable? Yes. Yes, it is. But there's no cam lever, right? See? Adjustable. So you just have to eyeball it. And then you tighten the brass knob. That little cam lever's not there because that wasn't added until, what'd I say? Late 1890s is what I read. Now, it's a little tricky if you've ever tried to do research on stuff like this, it's super hard to exactly figure out when things were, what era they're from, to put a date on it, I guess is what I'm saying. Because, it says late 1890s. Okay, well, is that 1896? Is it 1899? I don't know, what do they consider late 1890s? And if they said, there's some of them where they said 1895, they added the handy grip. Well, was it 1895? Or maybe it was 1894, 1896. It's really tricky, but I believe by eliminating some of these things, I've narrowed it down to roughly that 1890, which is super awesome. Paul says, yes, and a 9 1/4. So the 9 1/4, I forgot. I think the 9 1/4 just did not have the adjustable mouth, right? Is that what I read? Kind of the same? Sam says, YouTube's trying to kindly convince, by means of advertising, to annoy people into buying a yearly subscription. Just not see. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's something that I will not do. I'm just not going to pay for a subscription service. I don't want to pay for subscription services right now. And yeah, I'm sorry you're getting those ads, Sam. I wish there was something I could do about it, but it's not my deal, unfortunately. I can't. Sam Packin says, it would be great to see a video on setting up a plane. I struggled to get mine set up properly, so I don't use them much. Don't use them much where I could use them. Yeah, Rick, it definitely takes a little bit of patience. But you know what? In my experience, I think that it's not, and someone's probably going to disagree, and that's okay. But what I have found is, as long as you get the iron sharp, and I don't mean a little bit sharp, I mean sharp. If you get it nice and sharp, and it's got like as perfect of an edge as you can get, from there, it's really not that hard to get a plane to cut good. That's what I'm noticing. I don't use them a lot. I started out with just a couple. Yeah, it's kind of cool to get them working, but as if you've got some around and you can grab one and just use it, you find yourself using it more. And I find in the same thing, and I'm really getting into enjoying this aspect of it. Finding an old, yard sale, estate sale, junk store, flea market kind of find, fixing it up and putting it back to work. I love the history behind it. I was talking about, our kind of the Western heritage out here, that history, but there's also a history to that, and I'm really enjoying that. I would say my number one tip would be make sure that you can sharpen the iron. And I don't do anything fancy. I literally, I don't have any fancy Tormek that costs thousands of dollars. I don't have any sort of fancy sharpening jig. I absolutely only use sandpaper, I use a honing guide, and a leather strop at the end. And that is literally it. That is all I use. I use a piece of plate steel that's been ground flat, but you could use a piece of glass, a piece of flat tile, a piece of, I don't know, maybe MDF, something flat that you can use as a surface to hone that on. And I think that is the majority, that's most of the work. From there, all you really need to do is make sure that the bottom is relatively flat. To do that, I use high grit sandpaper on the same surface, right? Just lightly sand the bottom, make sure it's flat. Once that blade is sharp, the iron is sharp, you're probably going to be able to get it to cut. Start with back your blade way out so it's not cutting anything. From there, slowly bring it in. However the adjustment is. This one has this kind of, I don't know what you'd call that, elevator wheel. Or you may have something like this where you turn it in and out, or you got a regular, come here, style like this. Whatever it is, back the blade all the way off and slowly bring it in till it starts making a cut. But I think 95% of setting up a plane, in my opinion, is sharpening the blade. Literally. Once you get it sharp, you'll be able to get it to cut. Sorry, I got so Rick, I don't know if that helps. But as long as you can get it sharp, I sharpen mine with sandpaper up to 2000 grit before I move to a strop. That's what I do. Some people go to the 5,000, 10,000. In my opinion, I think that's a little overkill. That's just my opinion. If you want to go that high, go that high. You can. I stop at 2,000 and then strop it from there. And yeah. Paul says some models have the knuckle joint cap. Some did not. Yes. Says mine's from 1880. Since yours is black, it's most likely one of the earlier models. Yes, the knuckle joint is this one right here. I forget when they, oops, what have I done? When they've added that, but that was in my research there someplace. I don't think, did I see the 9.5? Did that go to the knuckle joint? I don't remember. one of the things that gave me a hard time was on the back of this, right? See that locking lever, right? That's how, and locks better this way. That's how you unlock the lever cap. They moved that in the late 1890s as well to the top. Again, this is all stuff that I found online, so I have to kind of take it with a grain of salt that the dates that I'm reading are correct. But if they moved that in the late 1890s to this style, right? This is the same cam kind of style. That's what was throwing me off the most. None of the pictures that I found had this lever down here. And I still haven't found a picture yet of that. I'm sure they're out there, but I, in my research, which was several hours yesterday, could not find a picture of this. All of them showed it on the top when I looked at a 9.5. So I was kind of doubting that this was a 9.5 until I read that it started out being on the back. So that was, it's just a lot of comparing information. Yeah, he says, pretty nice looking condition for a tool that is so old, even after the light restoring, Robert says. Yes, Robert, this thing was horrible looking. It was like all rusty, crusty. Some guys, when they restore a plane, they want to bring it back to mirror shine and all of that stuff. I don't. I want it to be clean. I want it to be usable and complete, exactly like this. This, in my opinion, is perfect condition for a usable plane. I'm not running a museum. I'm not running a showroom. I want to be able to grab a tool and use it. And it takes some scrubbing, some light sanding, some sanding with WD-40, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think this looks really nice. I want that patina, right? Not the rust, but I want the patina. And this, I think, has perfect patina. Still got some of the black on there. The Japanning is pretty complete down in here. It's just super cool. Rick says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, folks. Yes, hit that thumbs up button. Paul says, correct, 9.25, not adjustable. He says, congrats, nice plane. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's super cool. Super cool. Robert says to Rick, thanks for the reminder for the thumbs up. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Paul says, it would be from late 1890s, as early ones use a slotted screw for the mouth adjustment. Brass knob came later. I read that the screw was like the first version, and the brass knob was the second version. I also read that, like to your point, the date, they added that cam lever in the late 1890s. So I think this is before the late 1890s because there's no provision for that cam lever. And that's the thing, right? The information is so hard to narrow down. It may be from the late 1890s, but based on the fact that there's not even a hole, like it used to have a cam lever and it got lost or something, and that this was the second modification or second iteration of this knob. The third one had the cam lever, I think. I don't know. It's hard. You might be right. Paul says, BRB. Oh, Paul's already back. Hair Dude says, I have a honing guide for chisels. Are plane blades sharpened at the same angle? I use the cast top of my table saw for flatness. Boom, Hair Dude, yes. That's another great option I didn't think of. Rick, you could use your table saw, yeah. Perfect. So what I do, Hair Dude, yes, I use the same angles. I don't have the guide out here. But anyway, I go with a 25-degree angle. And then if I'm putting a micro bevel on there, I'll do a 30-degree micro bevel. This one is sharpened strictly at 30 degrees. Sorry, 25 degrees. I did not put a micro bevel on there. I do the same angle for my chisels. So yes, and I forgot to mention that, I think. I use a honing guide as well. It just makes it so much easier to keep things nice and square, right? So I don't know if you can see, like, let me cover my face so it'll focus. It's all backwards. Focus on the blade. Focus. I can't even hold the blade in the right spot. There you go. So you can see that's a mirror finish on that blade. And that's what you want, right? The more polished it can get, the better, in theory, it's going to cut. And this thing is sharp. I don't know if I've used it, but it might still shave. A little bit. Not, it could use another hone. Yeah, I feel a little tiny burr on there. Probably from me using it. But yes, you can use a honing guide. 25 degrees is what I like to go with. And then 30 degree for a micro bevel if I need a micro bevel or want a micro bevel. I use the same angle for chisels and all that sort of thing. It's just kind of my standard ones. Again, I don't claim to be a sharpening whiz or anything like that, but yeah. To answer your question, yes, I think they're the same. At least that's what I use. 25 and 30 degree. I use a honing guide. And yeah, the cast iron top is perfect. Anything flat. The flatter, the better. Paul says, "Hey, I'm back. Welcome back, Paul. We missed you." Sam says, "You can make a mini bar for the corner of the family room. I know someone that used empty green beer bottles in the brick front for the light to shine through. Look very cool." Yeah, that would be kind of neat. That would be kind of cool. Yeah. Paul says, "Work gets in the way of YouTube." The darn work. Robert says, "The leather strop is a must to polish the edge. The more smooth the edge, the smoother the cut." Yes, I agree 100%, Robert. Oh, and Rick, flattening the back as well is also really important. You want this edge to be flat, right? You could get it to where it's sharp, but if it's, wavy, you're going to have issues cutting. So you can look at this. You can see there's a mark, kind of an oval shape right in the middle. So which tells me there's a slight hollow right there, but that's not the cutting surface, so I'm not worried about that. I was able to get it shiny all the way around that, which tells me the surface where the cutting edge is flat. And then from there, you just sharpen it up. Sam Packin says, "My ribs hurt watching you turn to grab that plane. Ugh." Patience is my problem sharpening. I have a guide on the road I should take the blades to and have them sharpened. Sharp or dull might be my big issue. Yeah, and honestly, for quite some time, Rick, I kind of felt the same way. I felt like, man, these things are neat. Like when I got the first couple planes, I thought these are really cool, but I don't know how everybody can use them because they don't cut very good, right? So I would never use them. And then I sort of investigated a little bit, did a little practice, and I found out that I didn't have them sharp enough. That's why, right? It's like trying to cut something with a dull knife. Like it makes using the knife very unpleasurable. If that's a word. And once I figured out how to get it sharp enough, again, I'm not saying one technique is good or bad. Once I found a technique that worked for me and I could get a blade what I would consider really sharp, it made all the difference in the world with how a plane worked. And it doesn't matter what they are. Even this this old one from around the 1890s, 1880s, whatever it was, as long as it's sharp, this thing cuts amazing. It doesn't really matter what it is. As long as that bottom is flat and your blade is sharp, chances are you're going to get it to work. Senpeka says micro bevel, a different angle at the tip of the blade. Yes. Which ones have it? Does this have it? I don't remember. It's been so long since I've sharpened this one. No micro bevel on that one. I could put one on there, but so something to keep in mind is I would not micro bevel this iron that came out of my low angle plane, right? Because that would actually make it not quite as low of an angle. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that, but oh yeah, that could use a little honing as well. Yeah, it's just so if everything's at a 25 degree, once I get it sharp, then you go in and you put a 30-degree micro bevel on there. It's not necessary. It changes the cutting angle of whatever it is you're working on, so that could make a difference in how the tool cuts. It's not always necessary. I usually do it on that chisels though. I don't know why. Robert says, one thing that was explained to me about manufacturing was that as things are modified or changes, they pick a point on the line and stop it to make the change. And the newer model is from that point on. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's also why on this lateral adjusting lever on here, there's a list of 4 patent dates, and the last 2 are from 1888, not 1988. So that tells me that this can't be made before 1888. And if this cam lever was added, no, the handy grip was added in 1895, that tells me that this has to be at least 88, probably more like 89 by the time they updated the tooling with the new patent dates. I don't know. That's just the way I sort of narrowed this down to around that 1890. But yeah, because of that, once they make a change, yeah, you just stop the line, you retool whatever it is, boom, you go back into production, and there you go. Now, it could have been, it could be a matter of, the line that produces the castings or whatever, maybe that gets an update, but they still have some of the older of these things already cast or made. That's where it gets a little, you get some of that overlap, right? So if you have, let's just say, for instance, you have 1,000 brass knobs made, but you only have 500 bodies made, but you stop the line to make an update on the body, but you still got to work through the brass knobs. You know what I mean? You get that overlap, and that's where it gets a little bit confusing. They may have changed this lever in I don't know, I'm just making something up, in 1894, but they still had 1,000 of these on the shelf, so they didn't get used until 1895 or 96. Yeah, and it makes it tough. Paul says, I have a system that I use on my drill press by Tay Tools. It keeps chisels and plane irons razor sharp. Takes about 20 to 30 seconds per blade. Yes, you sent me pictures, I think, of that. And it looks like a really cool system and something I wouldn't mind maybe building. Something like that. My system is definitely not super fast. That's the biggest thing. And it uses sandpaper, right? So you're going to go through some sandpaper. So as long as you have sandpaper on hand, it's okay. But you're going to go through some. You're going to use some of it up. But the system works really good. And it's fairly inexpensive. That's why I like that method. But to be a little faster would be really cool. So yeah, something like that, Paul, I think would be really cool. Something like I said, I wouldn't mind building. You could 3D print some stuff or something. Maybe even just get a cheap drill press and have it set up only for sharpening. I don't know where I'd put it, but something like that would be cool. Sam says, carpenters are very good at what they make, all the fine details, but none have managed to make a tree that grows over time. Yeah, they can't. You can't make a tree. You can't make a tree. You can plant lots of trees, though. And something I try to keep in mind, when When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now. So if you want to plant a tree in your yard or whatever, go plant it. I'm an advocate for planting trees. Drizzy Guitars is here. What's up? What's going on, Drizzy? Right on. How are you doing? Welcome. What are you working on? Guitars on the bench? I got to get a guitar on my bench. I really do. I got to get something on the bench. Something that we're building. Right now I got hand planes on the bench. Let's see. Sempakin says, oh, you need a video on working with a plane. Sharpening right down to setup to the pretty curls coming off of it. I've done a few plane restorations, but yeah, I didn't really cover setting up a plane. There's probably because there's so many out there right now that cover that exact information. I don't think there's anything in there that I could touch on. That would be updated. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Look up videos from people like Paul Sellers, maybe what's his name, Rex Kruger. I think he does a lot of that stuff. I mean, there's just so many hand plane setup videos there. Some of the stuff you will end up out in the weeds, but there's so much information in there. Another one I just watched actually. What's his name? Katz Moses. Is it Jay Katz Moses? He's got one that I saw about setting up a plane. Or maybe it was sharpening a plane. I don't remember. But there's a lot of stuff out there. But my 2 cents on the subject is you've got to be able to get it sharp. And I don't mean, like I said, oh, that feels sharp. I mean, shaving hair, like you could literally shave with it. It's got to be darn near that sharp. The sharper I think you get it, the better results you're going to get. It's going to cut. And then just go slow when you're bringing the blade to the wood. Don't try to just take a big, giant, thick cut and force it through there. Start really light. You want as thin as possible, and then work down from there. Birdie Erdy, what's going on? Birdie Erdy says, I know off topic, but have you experimented making your own truss rods? And don't worry about off topic. There is no off topic. It's an open topic. I mean, shop related stuff. But yeah, don't worry about being off topic. If we're talking about hand planes or something, you throw your truss rod question out there. Don't ever worry about it. The short answer is no. I've not experimented with making my own truss rods because, in my opinion, they're absolutely cheap enough to where it's not worth it. That's my opinion. You can get them. You can get such good buys on truss rods. As of right now, maybe not forever, but right now you can get, they're priced to where you can buy a bundle of them, and it just doesn't cost all that much money. But I think it would be cool, right? I'm not saying the idea is bad. It's absolutely not. I think it would be cool to be able to make your truss rod everything, right? I think of an acoustic guitar, you make everything except pretty much the tuners. Well, I don't make my own bridge pins either, but I suppose you could somehow. If you made your own truss rod, I think that would be cool. It's really not something that at this moment, like I said, that I'm going to mess with. I'll just buy it. It doesn't, it's pretty inexpensive. And it's really rare. That's something rare for me to say. Because rarely do I want to just buy something. I would much rather save the money and do it myself. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but when I have to look at the time it's going to take me to make a truss rod, to get the supplies, to do the measuring, the math, all of the things to set up to make truss rods. If I had a space in my shop where I could leave a setup, leave like the little welding stuff set up to where, I could have the jig there and everything, to where I could just literally walk over there, turn on the welder, get fixtured up, zap, 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 done. That would be a different story. I don't have that kind of space available to leave things set up. I would love to have a welding space. I just don't have the room for it right now. Anytime I need to weld, I have to drag everything out. It's just a big drawn out process. So I don't do as much welding or metalworking type projects for that reason. Maybe if that changes sometime in the future and I have more space, maybe I will. Maybe I'll try it, where I could just leave things set up. But I kind of weigh my time right now, and I have to look at my, do I want to take the hours it's probably going to take me to set everything up, to get, to do a couple of test pieces, to make a few mistakes, to kind of learn, or do I want to just buy it? I don't know. But that's kind of the long drawn out answer is no. To just saying no, I don't make my own truss rods. I'm not knocking the concept or the idea whatsoever. Like I said, in fact, it's something I wouldn't mind trying. I just don't have. I just haven't. I hope that makes sense. I kind of feel like I might have rambled too much on that, but yeah. Short answer, no. A little bit longer answer is if I had a more permanent welding setup and I could leave things set, I probably would try it at least. But until then, I'll continue to buy them, or unless there's some sort of weird, I don't know, truss rod thing. Anyway, let's see. Sam Packin says, Paul, what is the tool you're talking about? Paul says the Easy Sharp drill press sharpening system V2. Says even comes with the attachments, just have to build the jig that you place the chisels on. Yeah, I might have to try that out. Sam asks, have you seen Colin Furze's underground bunker system to go from his house to his sheds? Yes, I have seen that. That dude's crazy. The space is underground parking, and he has to make a lift. Yes, I've seen that. And Paul says, cool, sending you the Gretsch. All right, and we'll have at it. Paul says, I make my own truss rods. That's awesome, Paul. He says, I'm a glutton for punishment. I weld in my driveway under the carport. I weld in the driveway too, just not truss rods. And it's such a pain. I have to move so many things in here to get the welder out that just getting the welder out is a process. Again, if I had a place where I could have it easily accessed, I would probably do more, because I do enjoy welding and gluing metal together. Robert says, Paul Sellers and a couple different videos on the sharpening plane irons and chisels. I've also seen a few others in sharpening tools. Main thing is, once sharp, don't go too long between sharpening them. Yes. Once you get it sharp, you're going to spend, it's going to be more maintenance, a stropping in between uses, occasionally retouching up with high grit, that sort of thing. All of the work, most of the work, I don't want to say all, most of the work is getting it sharp initially. From there, it's not uncommon. Well, this one was uncommon, the one I just did. It was relatively sharp already. When I went through the transitional plane, right? When I did this a couple months ago, that took a ridiculous amount of work to get that iron sharp. It took a ton of time. And a lot of times what happens is I don't start with coarse enough grit. I think, I don't need to go with a 120. 120 seems way too coarse. So I start with a 320 or a 400. Well, a lot of times if you've got a lot of sharpening to do, it pays to start with a coarser grit and work your way up to that 2000 or whatever you decide to go to. Once you get it done, yeah, then it's just maintenance. Sam says, is it safe to do a jig in a busy workplace? Well, it depends on what kind of workplace you're doing. You could do a jig wherever you want. You could do a jig in the middle of the street. Harry Dude says, cost versus time versus productivity. Yes. Man, see, you guys can say things that I'm trying to say in a much more concise, clear and concise manner. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. That's why I buy them. because is it worth my time? Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head is what I'm trying to say here, dude. Paul says, worst part is filing the teeth into the anchor part of the truss rod. Not difficult. Yeah, I've seen them built. It's not difficult at all. You drill the holes, you tap the things, you tap the threads, and you weld the. Not hard. It's just getting set up to do that. Robert says, Sam, yes, I've watched the tunnel builds. He's a bit crazy. Yeah. He says, what if he's the only person with a bunker in the event of a future conflict? Well, isn't he in your neck of the woods, Sam? You're gonna have to like go make friends with him or something. Isn't that where he is? I think he's there somewhere. I don't know. That'd be cool if he's like in your town. How cool would that be? Maybe you could go help him. Robert says, then he's smart. I mean, yeah, it's true. I want to show you really quick, since we've been talking about all this stuff, what I use for a honing guide. So I'm going to just like pause the camera from tracking me around, and I'm going to grab this really quick because I want to show you. I want to leave no questions. So this is the little honing guide that I use right here. I use it for chisels, plane irons, all that sort of thing. Chisels go down in here. Plane irons go in the top. And that's what I use. It works really well. Plane iron would, this is a little tiny thing that I'm messing with. Goes in there. This one doesn't quite work. But yeah, just a really inexpensive, I don't know, these things are like less than 20 bucks, I believe. I've had this one a little while, but yeah, nothing fancy. You just set it, to where you're at the proper angle. That might be one of the trickiest things, is just getting the angle set. But if you got a protractor, it's actually pretty easy to do. And yeah, works really well. And inexpensive. There's about 1 million different versions on the market, different makers, different brands. I don't know. I think I picked this up at Rockler or Woodcraft or something like that. There's tons of them online too that you could get. And they all pretty much do the same thing. Sam says, I'm not in his town. Oh, darn. I says, Colin actually wrecked his neighbor's driveway. He had to pay for a replacement surface. Whoops. Sam Packin says, I've got one exactly the same. Well, then, so you've got all you need to get your planes sharp. Just get you a nice flat surface, whether that's your table saw, piece of plate glass, or something. As long as it's flat, you can do it. I got some sort of crud on here. I don't know what that's all about. I have to clean that off a little bit. But yeah, it's nothing fancy. I don't use anything fancy. It just takes a little bit of time, and that's the biggest thing. And you can get them working. You can get them working. And I will say that they are a joy to use. And that might sound a little bit strange. When you get a sharp plane and you can get that thin, wispy shaving, it's pretty satisfying. Like, I totally get why some people, just do hand tool type builds. I totally understand it. There's something very satisfying and calming about taking something, especially something like this, that's 130 something years old, and you can start making cuts with it, doing some projects. I'm going to make a cut with this, but I need to get this. It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool feeling. I didn't get it for a lot of years. I didn't understand the whole thing. I just thought, yeah, it's a hand tool. Yeah, whatever. Like, I can do it on my table saw. It takes way less time. But after restoring a few of these, I get it. I get it. I'm not going to switch to just hand tool projects, but I understand. I get the appeal, let's just say. So I need the camera to follow me down here. Come on, camera, get down here. I'm doing this backwards. I'm doing this righty. Too deep of a cut. I need to adjust that a little bit. A little too heavy of a cut. Oh, am I against the grain? Grain direction is something you got to pay attention to as well. Like, it's just super cool to take something that, you know, with an afternoon of work that was covered in rust and grime and who knows what all. And after a little bit of elbow grease, cleaning it up, sharpening an iron, we're now making shavings with a tool that's 135 years old, give or take. It's awesome. 135 years old. I think about what was around 135 years ago, especially where I am. It's cool. Let's see. Sam says, never freely admit to having hardwood. You get strange looks. True. Edgelight's here. Says, I'm here. Sorry, I missed most of it. No worries. I'm glad you made it. How's it going? Sam Packin says, I'll take it to my guy down the road, then maybe keep them up myself. There you go. Yeah, if he's got a setup for it, he could probably sharpen them up in no time. But yeah, I'm gonna stand behind that and say that that's probably one of the biggest struggles. You get it sharp enough, I'll bet your planes are gonna work. Robert says, I've seen someone that built a jig to help set up the angle on the guides. This is just a board with different blocks set to adjust the iron in the guide for the angle wanted. Robert, hold please. Oops, I better stop this or it's going to wind around. Hang on. Like that. So mine needs a little bit of fine tuning, but what this is, if you're not familiar, is, well, I just set that one. So let's take this one apart. This one's got a, it's weird, micro bevel. I don't know why I would have micro beveled that, but apparently I did. So what these are they're setup guides for this jig. So I'm going to put this back in the vise and I'll show you. Come on, camera. What's your deal? Follow me. There we go. Forgot to turn it back on. Come on, look down here. So I made mine kind of like a bench hook just because, but not necessary. So these are set up at different distances so that I can get a 25-degree angle and a 30-degree angle on plane irons and a 25-degree angle and a 30-degree angle for chisels. Now, the reason I have it set up both is because they sit in different spots on this guide. So you kind of have to set your own up. Actually, that might be kind of a cool video on building one of these, at least how I do it. So if you put your plane iron in the guide, and then it sit in, and you set it on whatever flat surface. You can't even see. Come on, look down. Look down. There we go. So we got the plain iron in the guide, and you use a protractor of some sort. I'm just going to use this angle finder, right? You can adjust this in and out to where it sits at, well, it's close enough, 25.7 degrees right there. And then if you take it to a block of wood and you set that against here, you can make a stop that's that distance away, right? So it doesn't matter if your plane is, your iron is wider or it's longer, it's going to be the distance from the cutting edge to the front edge. That's always going to be the same, right? If it's longer, it's just going to stick out the back. So you make you a quick setup block like this to where you can come up, you put your iron in place, put the block in here, slide it up against, and tighten it down. Boom, there's your 25-degree angle. It makes it super quick to set up. And then if you want to do a micro bevel and you want to go to a 30-degree angle, well, then you just move over here, you scoot the jig in, boom, 30 degrees, done. You got to set it up for your particular angle. You know, there's some distances that I've read online, but I think that's how I built this. And it's off by a tiny, tiny bit. So like if I go off of the way it's built and then I measure it, it comes up a couple degrees off. Well, it's 1 degree off. 25. It's 25.9 degrees. Now, is that going to make any difference? No, and I've sharpened plenty of them at 25.9 degrees. But when I just did this one yesterday, I set it up exactly at 25 degrees. Now, I did not use this quick setup guide to get that final angle. I tried it, but that's just a quick method to get things set up. And I have the other ones for chisels, like I said, because it sits in a different spot on the jig. So just another little quick way to kind of get things set, help speed up the process, because it does, it takes a bit of time. It does. Paul says, got to go. Everyone have a great week. See you next time. Right on, Paul. Have an awesome week. Take care. Sam Packin says, I've never looked, but you have a merch store. I need a t-shirt like yours. I do. But I'm like out of stock on all the merch. I need to get some more stuff and get some more things listed up on there. So when I do, I will let you know. Sam says, plain and simple. Sorry, I had to. Robert says to Paul, have a good one. Sam, be safe, Paul. Rick says, well, I better get a move on. Have a great day, folks. And Jeff, right on, Rick. You do the same. Robert says, I don't remember his name or his channel on YouTube, but there's a younger guy that uses only hand tools to build furniture. It goes from rough lumber to boards to furniture. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen some channels. I don't know if I've seen the same one, but Sam says, perhaps make emergency mini carpentry tools in a homemade case to sell in your online store. That would be kind of cool. It would be. Sounds like a lot of work, but it would be cool. 3D printed. Ooh. I still got to try 3D printing the rabbit plane. Oh, Sam Packin says, he's got my interest. Still here. Well, Rick, right on. Hopefully I helped you out there with some of the setup instructions. Yeah, there's just, it's like everything, right? If you want to dive deep into the sharpening, you can pretty much dive as deep as you want, but really the goal is get it sharp. Just make it sharp, and it's going to cut most of the time, Don't get it really sharp and start super light. You want it to not cut anything at first and slowly work into the piece. And that's it. That's really it. So anyway, any other questions on the sharpening, hand plane stuff, or jigs and fixtures, that sort of thing, before we wrap this up? I don't know what else to cover. I got hand planes all over the place now, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so I don't know. Rick says you did. Thanks. Right on. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you can get it, Rick. Yeah, get them sharp. You'll be cutting in no time. So, well, anyway, unless anybody's got any last minute questions, comments, suggestions, topics, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to get this cleaned up. I got to get back to editing some video for this little beauty of a hand plane. So that's going to be coming out next weekend. This coming weekend, we got we got a little leather working project coming up. That's all ready to come out. Next week we'll be working on that. So yeah, hope everybody's doing awesome. You guys are having a great summer. And Rick says, okay, got to go now. My son's 45th birthday. Oh, so things to do. Right on. Rick, tell him happy birthday. Happy birthday. Sam says, Jeff, I think it's time to turn the field fencing into Wi-Fi receiver. Just pretend you know nothing about headaches. Oh, yeah. I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could. You could. But anyway, right on. You guys, thank you. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you for hanging out. Another awesome live here at Home Built Workshop. I really appreciate all of you. Going to get this cleaned up, get some video edited, and we got to get started on the next project. So you're going to have to make sure you stay tuned to find out what that is. But yeah, I appreciate all of you. Sam says, thanks for the fantastic stream today. You're absolute legend. Right on. Drizzy Guitars, cheers. Harry Dude says, I don't have a lot of use for planes, but you make me want to sort out the two I have. Harry Dude, you should. Like I said, I don't use them much myself, but it is cool, like I said, to be able to take one and, and use it to make some cuts, right? One thing that I was practicing with yesterday, it was kind of a simulation of leveling a headstock on an acoustic. If I was building an acoustic guitar, it's super satisfying, even if you don't use them very often. I don't use them very often, but it's really cool to sometimes just grab it and put it to work. So I would recommend, even if you don't plan to use it, get them tuned up, make them cut, grab some scraps of wood and cut some shavings. You'll be like, oh, it's super cool. And then you can set them back up on the shelf and at least know that, if you ever need it, it's there. And yeah, you should get them tuned up, get them working. I want to report next week that, hey, I got them out and at least dusted them off. There's a challenge for you. And I want to know what they are too. So that's for next week. You can let us know. Sent back and says, great stream, Jeff. Smash the like button. Right on, everybody. Thank you. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. Ken says, good talk. Right on, Ken. Thank you. Sam, be safe, everyone. Robert, everyone stay safe and healthy. Have a great one. Right on, everybody. Thank you so much. Awesome stream. As always, I'm going to get back to work, get things cleaned up, do some editing. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys all next time. Make sure you get out in your shops, build some cool stuff, make some things, spend some time outside, all that good stuff. Thank you again. We'll talk to you all next time. Take care, everybody. Thank you.